Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Morgan Robinson, Azeal's cousin. I'm here today to share with you a bit about our family ancestral history. For the record, Azeal and I are cousins, and our parents, our grandparents, were siblings. It is a great honor to share this information with you as we honor Azeal at this appreciation service. So let's get started. Approximately 40 years ago, June King began researching our family's ancestral history. This led to the Snowden-Morgan-Hughes database that contains more than 900 family members dating back to 1815. It was during this research that she found Isaac Snowden, our great-great-great-grandfather. Today's discussion will be about Isaac Snowden and his descendants with direct link to Azeal. In 1850, the North Carolina slave schedule has a black man, age 35, owned 8 slaves living in Courthouse, North Carolina. We found the same man in 1860. He's now 45 years old, owned 19 slaves, and he lived in Indian Ridge, North Carolina. It should be pointed out that prior to 1870, blacks were not counted in the U.S. Census. Slaves, however, were counted by age and sex on a slave schedule. The slave schedule contained the name, age, race, residence of the slave owner. Therefore, that's how we were able to find Isaac Snowden. After the Civil War, the next census was 1870. Blacks were included in this census, but fearful of our government. We will find that former slaves would often change their names for protection. Such is the case with the Snowden family. They changed their name to Gray. Let's take a look at the 1870 census. Here we have the Gray family with familiar first names. We recognize the first names. And we were able to map people in the 1870 census to people in the 1860 census. In particular, Annis Gray, who's now 13 and was 3 in the 1860 census. Isaac Snowden enslaved his family, and it is believed that he enslaved them to keep them together. Emancipated slaves had to be out of the slave states 6 months after emancipation. If they were not out of the slave states, they were subject to being re-enslaved. So Isaac kept his family together by keeping them enslaved. Isaac had 2 sons, America, and sometimes referred to as Americus Snowden. He was our great-great-grandfather. Let's look at Americus Snowden a bit more. Americus Snowden had 5 children: Moses, Edmund, Annis, Alex, and Penny Snowden. And we look further at Annis. Annis was married 3 times. Her first husband was Enoch J. Morgan, and they had 6 children, one of which was married Virginia Morgan, Azeal's grandmother. When the marriage with Enoch J. dissolved, She married William Thomas Hughes, and they had 4 children: Mamie, William, Hattie, and Frank. Annis married a 3rd time, Daniel Lewis. They had no children. Let's take a closer look at Enoch J. Morgan. He was found in 1880 in the U.S. Census, living in Norfolk County. He was the head of the household. He was 33 years old. He was born in North Carolina. His wife was Annis, who was 22. She was born in Currituck, North Carolina, and they had 3 children: Emily, Americus, and Enoch E. 3 more children were born to the Morgans while living in Norfolk County: Mary Virginia, Isabel, and Johnson. On the right here, I have the pictures of the Morgan children in their older years. Emily is not shown because we believe Emily passed away sometime after the 1880 census. Oral history tells us that Enoch J. Morgan was abusive to his family, in particular to his son. He worked them hard in the fields, gave them little or no food to eat, and he tried to kill his wife, Annis. Her sons, Americus and Enoch, came to her rescue and ran him away. Now, Annis, again, after the marriage to Enoch J. Morgan was dissolved, Annis married William Thomas Hughes, and she had 4 children. Annis and children were members of the First Lynn Haven Baptist Church. Many of Annis' descendants are still members of First Lynn Haven Baptist Church. Annis' sons, Americus, Enoch, and her brother Moses, thought it was too long a distance to travel from SeaTac to First Lynn Haven Baptist Church, so they founded the Mount Olive Baptist Church in SeaTac. After the death of her husband, William Hughes, she married Daniel Lewis. Annis started a cemetery, a family cemetery, off Old Virginia Beach Road. As a matter of fact, near the intersection of Old Virginia Beach Road and North Burnick Road. It was probably created or started with the death of her daughter, Emily. Annis is buried in this cemetery, and 6 of her children are buried here also. Mary Virginia Morgan Whitehurst is Azeal's grandmother. As a young child, she would hide food out in the field for her brothers because they were not given enough food, were not allowed to eat properly by their father, Enoch J. Morgan. As a young lady, she also worked on the beach as a domestic for the Colgate and Vanderbilt families. She went on to live with the Vanderbilts in New York as a teacher's aide at the age of 15. The 1900 census shows Mary Morgan living with the Vanderbilts in Manhattan. And Mary was known to be blunt, to the point, and took no prisoners. Some even said she was just mean. But she was highly civic oriented. She took children, black children, to register for school in Norfolk because there was no school for the children beyond elementary school in Princess Anne County. And on occasion, she would take them all the way to school in inclement weather. She held several offices in the Princess Anne County Training School Association that finally secured a public high school for black children in Prentiss County. She raised money for the Red Cross. She was a midwife. She was a solicitor for the TB Association at the Thalia Sanatorium. On March 24, 1904, she married Jacob Hunter Whitehurst, a Prentiss County farmer. To this union, 3 children were born: Evelyn, Annis, and Jacob Rowland Whitehurst. Annis was a lifelong member of the First Land Haven Baptist Church, where she served as deaconess and other offices and other points of leadership. Here we have Aunt Mary and Uncle Jake at their 50th anniversary. I'm told that this picture was taken by Azeal. And here we have Azeal's father, Jacob Rowland Whitehurst, which is simply called Cousin Roland. Cousin Roland was an independent contractor providing services as a brick mason and an electrician. He married Jenny Mae Riddick. Into this union, 2 children were born, Azeal and Jake. Here we have a picture of Jacob, Cousin Roland, and Cousin Jenny Mae. Now we've looked at the ancestral line of Azeal, beginning with Isaac Snowden, the slave owner, Americus Snowden, his son, Annis Snowden, the daughter of Americus, Mary Morgan Whitehurst, the daughter of Annis, Jacob Rowland Whitehurst, the daughter of Mary Morgan Whitehurst, and Gwendolyn Azeal. Azeal's daughter, Gwendolyn Grimstead, will take over from here. Thank you for listening. I hope you found the information interesting.